which of course has got to do with the inflow into Consolidated Revenue Fund. And then in the course of your presentation, you talked about ways and means. Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, we must do all we can to reverse and to also stop the happenings around ways and means. Like I presented on the floor of the Senate, so far to now, more than 6 trillion has been taken from Consolidated Revenue Fund as charges on the basis of interest on these ways and means, because they securitized it with DMO. We must. You can imagine if CRF is enriched by even 50% of that amount, that will be 3 trillion to be shared. That will lead to the succor that Nigerians demand or require or need. Secondly, sometime last year, we were all approached here as members of the National Assembly to provide list for the token of 50,000 naira to be paid to citizens. We are politicians. We gave the names. Every day we are under pressure. Nigerians don't get that fund because today it is under your office. My Egbon, do the needful. Let it go round so that we'll be happier.
Thank you, Moses.
No, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. No economy thrives or develops without the real sector being very active and functional. Honorable Minister and Coordinating Minister, I need us to revisit the Finance Act 2021, which reduced 2020, which reduced tariff on importation of vehicles from 35% to 5%. Meanwhile, the reason for it being as high as 35% was to discourage importation and encourage local manufacturing. For crying out loud, Nigeria should be at the level of CKD now. The SKD that we were struggling on has been completely bastardized by the provision of that act because it opened up all the windows of importation into Nigeria. That has put so much pressure on the automobile sector. And automobile sector is one of the major employers of labor and then very active part of the real sector. Honorable Minister, Coordinating Minister, this my...
Thank you, most distinguished Senator Lalong. Then, no, don't worry. My colleagues can collectively overrule me. So, Senator Lalong, then Senator Eradua, and the last person will be Senator Saliu Mustafa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The Honorable Minister, my own is concerned to Nigerians. You are the coordinating minister. You are supposed to coordinate up to the grassroots. Many people are worried. By now, with the judgment of the Supreme Court on local governments, your eye should get up to the grassroots. We are wondering whether you are really in any way preparing to implement this judgment. Because each month they will give one reason or the other why money is not going to local governments directly. Why money is not going to local governments directly. By now, we should expect that money should go to them so that we start monitoring. You monitor very well what is happening to grassroots, because most of the things that we mention, where that this money is going, but it stops somewhere. There's always a gap. The Accountant General is here. This one, I started reading again, that for one reason or the other, please, if I'm not making any point, I reserve myself. We are beginning to see that there's one reason or the other why money should not be paid.
Senator Karimi, I will rule you out.
So let us know. If we are not paying, then we know that anytime we run to Supreme Court, they give judgment, the judgment becomes useless. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Optimization of assets, bringing in of equity is the order of the day. Having stabilized the Nigerian economy to a large extent, still committed to the fight against inflation, which on behalf of Nigerians, the government will win, will bring down food prices, will make food more affordable and available. Within that context, the growth of the Nigerian economy is to come from investment, private sector investment. The government spending, prioritization of its projects will be on major infrastructure, including digital infrastructure, fiber optic network, in order to make the economy more productive so that it can grow, create jobs, and reduce poverty, which is the overall goal of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I think the questions on the envelope system, it's something that will have to be reviewed, but I will say this, technology is the way. When you look at the history of Lagos and what happened, it was the application of technology to revenue gathering, collecting, monitoring in particular, and I think is no different these days in which we have generative AI. Yes, the policies of the president are working, but they do take time. Even when you go through a physical, let's say, physical operation, you are on the mend, but there will be the pain at first, and it will ameliorate over time. It will be no different for the Nigerian economy and Nigerians. And finally, because there is elevated inflation at this time, His Excellency has intervened for farmers, for the social society. The direct payments that you talked about are being ramped up. The payments to individuals, the loans to students, the CNG buses for workers, and the relatively low interest loans for small scale business in particular. These are all interventions to ameliorate the situation of the high cost of, relatively high cost of living, which is coming down and is predicted to come down, as we have said earlier today. So much brighter times are ahead for the Nigerian economy, the Nigerian society, the people of Nigeria. Thank you.
No clapping here. We don't clap.